Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Athens in Motion Commission regularly scheduled monthly meeting, October 25, 2022. I'm Teresa Friedlander, Vice Chair. I'm filling in for Lauren Blaze, who is not feeling well today. We wish her a speedy recovery and hope to see her beautiful smiling face at the next meeting. So welcome, everyone. This is our first in-person sort of hybrid meeting since the pandemic lockdown. We have Erin joining us on screen. Hi, Erin. And we have staff people, Stephen Bailey, Ronnie Katrib, Cheryl Hallam, also on screen. And then in the room we have Daniel Sizemore, we have Blaine Van Note, we have James Parliament, Randy Halstead, we have Scott Long from Bike Athens, we have Dale Van Canford, and we have John Devine from Georgia Bikes. So we do have a quorum. I don't know what to tell you about in-person meeting procedures, but it's on the agenda. Do we want to share the agenda?
Sure.
Let's share the agenda.
These are things that would be good to have planned ahead of time.
Yeah, well, you know, we're all getting used to this again.
If anybody else has the agenda already pulled up, feel free to share it. I'm getting to it.
All right. We can wait. We've waited 2 years plus for this great event. What's another few minutes?
Yeah.
Et voila, the agenda. Okay, so.
Can everybody see that in the remote?
All right. So I think that, you know, the in-person meeting procedures are going to be fine-tuned a little bit over time, but we're doing it hybrid right now, which is interesting, and I hope it works, because it's nice to be able to have people who can't be here in person to be able to vote and discuss with us. All right, so do we have any public comments?
Oh, we do.
Awesome, let's hear them.
Sorry, guys. Go ahead to the next bullet. I'll come back.
Okay, all right. So we have the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda that anyone would like to make?
No.
Hearing none.
Move that be approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Randy. Okay, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We also have the minutes that Blaine provided us, minutes for the September 27th Athens in Motion Commission meeting. And I hope everyone's had a chance to read them over. And I made a few changes in the text, just typos. Right. But that was it. Otherwise, awesome job on the minutes. Thank you very much, Blaine. So can we have a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Thank you very much. And we will now go on to public comments if they're available yet. If not.
All right, so this is from Catherine Refi from Georgia Avenue. Hi, Commission. Thanks for the work that you do. I'm very excited about the bike lanes on Prince Avenue pilot program. There's just one intersection that concerns me as a cyclist, and I'm wondering what your suggestions are for how to navigate it. When I am traveling in the bike lane eastward on Prince, approaching Pulaski, and want to continue straight onto Doherty, I'm not sure the safest way to do it. The bike lane wants to swoop me right onto Pulaski, so I currently need to dodge the zipper bumpers as I cross over the right turn only lane for vehicles and get into the left turn straight lane for vehicles. This feels quite dangerous, actually more so than it was before the pilot program began. How do you intend cyclists to navigate this intersection while traffic is in motion? Thanks in advance for your response.
What a good question and comment. I had the same experience when I rode my bike at that intersection. So, is that something that you all have been taking a look at?
Yes, so, Stephen, do you remember what we talked about with the consultant last week? My brain's kind of foggy.
I don't remember what the solution was there. Did we chat with Tool about it?
Yeah, I believe, if I remember correctly, the intention was that the cyclists could use the crosswalk, but there's no bike lane markings in that crosswalk. I think ultimately, for now, like as it's currently designed, you would do exactly this movement that she's talking about. Probably not trying to dodge the zipper bumpers. I would exit at Meg's when there's the road, basically the road that comes in.
Yeah.
I would exit the bike lane there where you have a little more space and you could move over into that center lane that moves straight ahead. But that is something that we brought up with the designers. Personally, I feel like once we do get into designing the permanent infrastructure here, we do want to look at all movements. So that's one where I think we could get the cars, you know, that go straight and that lane shift and potentially having kind of a crosswalk. If there was kind of that an opening for bikes that can continue straight across, right now, I think the safest thing to do is to come to a complete stop and make sure that there aren't any cars that are kind of turning right as you're going straight across. And so it's kind of a weird spot, and we'll get some more details from the designer on, because I know that they've explained it, but off the top of my head, I don't remember.
Yeah, because that really is a dangerous
It's just,
spot. I mean, I almost got
it's
hit when I was doing that, because it you know, the bike lane kind of just ends, and so if you want to go straight, you know, it's unclear, do you go into the crosswalk, which I did, and then the car almost killed me, turning right. So anyway, I'm sure it'll get designed to be safe as we go forward. Okay.
Could we have a report back from staff at our next meeting, the resolution on that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Report back. Okay, great. All right. So now we move on to the chair updates and housekeeping part of our agenda. So our next meeting will be after Thanksgiving. It will be on November 29th. It's the 5th Tuesday instead of the 4th Tuesday. This will be our annual meeting, and the chair will give the annual report for the commission to accept. We will be re-electing the officers. So if any of our members who are not currently serving as officers would like to be an officer, please let the chair know. And yeah, and be happy to talk about that. And then we're going to work on our work plan for the January meeting, which is basically telling Mayor and Commission what we plan to be doing for 2023. At the moment, we are tentatively not having a meeting in December. However, that could change depending on what happens with Mayor and Commission, et cetera, et cetera. Committee meetings and are in person now. So all of our little subcommittee groups, you do have to meet in person, and it has to be at a ACC Gov site, such as this conference room. All right, major items on the agenda. Let's talk about Barber Street. Okay, so that.
Just one point of information.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I guess because of Thanksgiving, the Greenway Commission has also moved their meeting to the Tuesday after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
I don't know if there could be scheduled conflict or not, but,
And that's at 3 o'clock?
I don't know if the time has been given. In the past, it's been at 3.
I think it's been at 3. So we can explore,
I just know
that's a lot of meetings.
at our last,
Okay.
meeting earlier this month, there was discussion about moving it from 3 because a number of our members cannot make a 3 o'clock meeting in person.
Right.
They've been used to making it by Zoom, but can't be there
Mm-hmm.
in person.
Sure.
Okay, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
So, do we want to discuss a change in time or date, or do we want to, since that's kind of a one-off odd thing, like, that'll be one less, you know, he won't be able to make this one and that one, so.
Yeah, well, I guess there's an alternative we could think about, which is, scheduling it sort of in the early part of December, rather than having a December, you know,
Yeah.
late December meeting.
Maybe, let's figure it out maybe through email.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
That's gonna, so let's just make a point, just send out, if you could send an email, we
Right,
can do some scheduling and figure out Doodle Poll or something.
I'll email everyone after this meeting.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because we want to make sure that you're able to attend. Obviously, we want everyone to attend because it is an important meeting. Okay, moving on, Barber Street. Has everyone read over the, information that Sarah Johnson sent us
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
and filled out your comments? Okay, so Daniel, what do we have to do about that, if anything, this evening?
Ronnie, do you wanna take that?
Yes. So historically, Athens in Motion Commission have made two separate votes at two separate times. The first one was the recommendation, and let me open my email just so it can be correct here. All right. So the first official recommendation that went to Mayor and Commission included multiple bullet points, and at that point, if you recall, the recommendation circled around moving segment 1, 2, and 3 into preliminary design while we continue examining options for segment 4. Later on July 14, 2022, during a special call session, Athens in Motion Commission reviewed multiple alternatives for segment 4 presented by the design consultant and provided recommendations on that one. And the recommendation reads as follow: recommending 12-foot two-way separated bike lane with 5-foot sidewalk and removal of on-street parking as preferred alternative for segment 4. What is needed is a official recommendation for Barber Street project from Prince to Chase. Right now, we have two recommendations, and the original, like I said, the July 13th, 2021 recommendation have contradicting information to what are we asking Mayor and Commission to do, which is, I believe, and I don't want to put words in your mouth here as a commission, but I believe your recommendation is to move the entire project into preliminary design, which is not what the recommendation written in 2021, July 13, 2021. So I just want to bring that to your attention today. We kind of staff, Daniel, myself, Stephen, we know what your intent is, but I don't think it's written anywhere. I've written a draft recommendation to just make sure we're all on the same page. And if we have a quorum today, let's go ahead and confirm your recommendation as of today on Barber Street project from Prince to Chase.
Yeah, and, do you have the, agenda item pulled up? I can pull it, I can open it out of the, folder, if you want me to do that.
I listed in our chat the bullet points I've written, some modification to the vote that was taken last year in July, and in conjunction with the vote taken a few weeks back in 2022, just to combine, and if we can read this out loud, Daniel, I would prefer either you or Teresa to read those recommendations out loud, and if you guys all agree, we can, I don't know what is the exact term, is it vote again or ratify or confirm? I'm not sure what's the term here.
Well, I think what we want to say then is that we, as a commission, support the recommendation that has now gone through a public process. Is that what we're saying?
In addition to the recommendation on segment 1, 2, and 3?
Right. So we're now recommending, we now, as a commission, want to recommend to mayor and commission the proposal for segment 4 that we have just developed.
Okay, so just to confirm, I'll go ahead and read it out loud just for the
Yeah, I'll
members
read the
to
whole
hear.
thing. I will read the whole thing. Okay, so Ronnie put in the chat room that we approve the concept design of a 12-foot two-way separated bike facility and 5-foot sidewalk from North Chase Street to Prince Avenue. That would be segments 1 through 4. Reduce the two-way roadway width to 11 feet minimum per travel lane and eliminating existing street parking on segments 3 and 4. Reduce the 4-lane roadway from North Chase Street to Loop 10 Bridge, segment 1, and to a 3-lane roadway with 2 travel lanes and 1 center turn lane. Skip that first band. Maintain sidewalk between Oneida Street and Loop 10 underpass, segment 2, on the eastern side of the roadway where possible.
Excuse me a second. Apparently there's a journalism class of about 20 upstairs wanting to join this meeting.
That's too many people.
So I know,
Yep.
obviously. So Daniel's going to go upstairs and try to stream them,
Okay.
just so y'all are aware of what's going on.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that's,
Do we need Daniel for this discussion right now? I think we might need Daniel for this part
Right,
of the.
so if you want to give him a few minutes.
okay.
do that.
All right. Well, Dan,
Can
well,
we not stream it after we're done with this?
yeah, all right. So, I guess we'll just have to sit here for a few minutes and wait for Daniel to come back.
I think you can finish reading it, and then we can.
Okay, finish reading.
let's do
Okay,
that.
so where was I now?
Oneida Street?
Move the
Yeah.
sidewalk between Oneida.
Oneida?
Maintain sidewalk between Oneida Street and Loop 10 underpass, that's segment 2, on the eastern side of the roadway where possible. Move the project from North Chase Street to Prince Avenue, segments 1 through 4, into the preliminary design phase. Allocate funding for final design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction for segments 1 through 4, including the boulevard intersection, in the amount of $5,843,250. We are awaiting cost estimates from Tool Design to be funded by Bike and Pedestrian T-SPLOST programs at a 50-50 split. Recommends that if construction funding is limited during construction, build the, okay, we got to scoot that up.
Yep. It's there's missing text there.
Yeah.
I realized it didn't copy and paste.
Okay. Build the segments 4, 3, 2, and 1 in that order.
Correct. Sorry for that miss typo there. Just yes, and as you read, Teresa, thank you so much. We don't have an updated cost estimate for the project. I believe that was shared kind of in 2 different times. As soon as I have that cost estimate for that project, but what you're voting on, we can edit this sentence to talk about the split between the 2 programs, assuming that we have enough funding.
Right. All right, so at this point, do we need to wait for Daniel to come back in with the journalism students.
Well, I have a question in the meantime.
Yeah,
We're really talking about segment 4, right?
Correct.
In this motion,
yeah,
we're just talking about segment 4?
right. But it fits into the whole picture, like we left it with mayor and commission, yet that, 1, 2, and 3, we made our recommendation.
Right.
Then, from that point on, we recommended a shared, because we didn't have approval to go for segment 4. We recommended the sharrows,
Right.
and the mayor and commission came back and said, mm-mm. So we came and took another look at it, and that's how we got to, this latest iteration, which is what we need to do now.
Okay.
Is to extend this whole recommendation to include segment 4.
Okay.
That's right, because mayor and commission have to vote on the entirety of it in December. So that's why we need to show a full recommendation from AIM.
Gotcha.
And I don't think you have to wait for if you want to have your vote now. I believe you could do so.
Okay.
But if you'd rather wait, that's fine too.
All right, well, do we have any further discussion?
A couple quick things. In the diagram that was in the story map, it showed the bike lane tightening down pretty severely around Half Moon.
Around where?
Around Half Moon, right at the parking lot for Half Moon Outfitters on
Yeah.
Barber. And I don't know if you guys need this kind of information or feedback right now, but I think at speed, that's gonna be really challenging for two people on bikes going different directions to maintain and be safe. The other thing I noticed on here was 11-foot minimum per travel lane. Is that something that Athens in Motion needs to get involved in, the minimum driving lane? I mean, I would hate for us to lose bike lane space at some point because we ourselves said we need an 11-foot driving lane, as a minimum.
Right, and I think that's something that we probably put in as staff. If we are on a transit route, transit has asked for 11 feet for the width of their buses. But I think what you're saying, John, is that doesn't have to come from the mouth of Athens in Motion because that's not the priority for necessarily for your group.
Right. I mean, I'm much more concerned with minimum bike lane width than car lane width.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So maybe we just say like an 11-foot typical travel lane or something like that?
I think that's, it's your words for the priorities of this group. So if that's what you want to put, I think that's fair.
Does that get you guys what you need?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, well, Ronnie, then do you want to change that in the text and then redisplay it?
Of course.
Thank you. All right, does anyone else have any further comment or question on what we're doing here? All right, well, hearing none, do we have a motion to make this recommendation to the mayor and commission?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, everyone out there, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aaron, what about you? Are you approving? Thank you. Okay. Any nays? All right. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, so now we have the Prince Avenue pilot project next on the agenda, but I don't know, we need Daniel for that, and he's not back yet.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the mayor and commission will have a work session about Barber Street on November 8th. So it looks like Lauren is thinking that she might need to be in attendance. It's possible that she may need some support. So, but we'll let you know on that. Hopefully, Lauren will be all better by then.
And just to our viewing public and for the record, I repasted what you voted on with the elimination of the actual cost because we don't have it, and therefore you voted on the split and you voted on 11-foot travel lane. not minimum
Right.
or typical. And that's what's shown for the record. That's what's shown on the concepts that were shared with you.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
I thought we were voting on typical.
Oh, Aaron,
Right,
Aaron says he's not a voting member anymore.
he's not.
Oh, well, Aaron, that's sad, but yeah, I guess I remember that, don't I?
It is shown on the typical sections on the layouts.
I just,
What,
my point was, the typical, I was hoping would give enough wiggle room for us to say, you know, this is probably what it's gonna look like, but we don't wanna tie anybody's hands, you know, in, obviously, you don't have to do what Athens in Motion is recommending to the mayor and commission, but I think the point was to provide flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
And this, if you put typical, you're setting that minimum or that with, if you say 11, that's the intent. So with typical, you're more constrained. Typical is you're referring that it's a typical per a standard versus here we're saying 11 per this road and per your recommendation. It leaves a lot of room for flexibility and for revision in the design phase of the project. We're at the concept level.
So Ronnie, you just struck the
typical
word
out.
minimum, is that correct?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, leaving typical out gives you more flexibility down the road than including it?
And at least doesn't put it on Athens in Motion to be the one calling out what's the width of the road. 11
Right.
feet is what was shown on the layouts for this concept when it was presented to you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, well, it looks like we've got that, camera going in the larger conference room. Hello, journalism students. We're pleased to have you join us.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can, yeah, okay, so Daniel, are you staying up there, or are you coming back?
No, I'll be back down there, but I'm just wanting to make sure that everything was working properly, so.
Okay, great, thank you, yeah, we need you down here. All right, so, we right now are discussing our major items on the agenda. We just talked about, what's happening on Barber Street, and we just had a vote to, recommend to mayor and commission, that we go ahead with the, continuation of the two-way bike lanes along, Barber Street from Boulevard to Prince Avenue and work on the intersection there as well for connecting bicycle traffic and pedestrian traffic safely. So that's where we are. And when Daniel gets back, we're going to talk about the Prince Avenue pilot project. Have any of you out there had a chance to walk or ride the pilot area? Anybody? I'm not seeing, I see Steven, yeah, I did it. But what about you guys at the big room? All right, well, that's your homework.
Sure.
All right.
Well, I, for one, am enjoying it immensely.
Right.
It's, I mean, you can just feel your heart rate go
Uh-huh.
so far down riding that segment.
Okay, we have some, you joining us.
You mind if I sit over here?
Go for it.
Just in case they need B-roll footage or something.
That's fine. All right. Okay, so Daniel, we're now on the Prince Avenue pilot project.
Oh,
So let's talk about it.
all right. What? I don't have the agenda. All right, Prince Avenue, so y'all got the vote?
Yes.
Yeah, we voted
Perfect.
and we're gonna recommend to mayor and commission, so it's all good.
So with the Prince Avenue pilot project, the Zikla zippers have been repaired. Public comment is open through November, so the public survey is still available. And we are encouraging everyone to fill it out. You know, it's one of those things where there's a, one of the pages is actually a map where you can add comments. And so, you know, if you put in all the comments you see and then you see some more stuff pop up, like go ahead and fill out again. Like we just need to, we want to make sure that all the comments are in there. So we're not, you know, there's ways that we can combine behind the scenes, like the data to, IP addresses and stuff like that, so.
When does that close?
I don't have that number in front of me, but I will let you know. So we started off we started off public input with the Porch Fest. We did tabling over near where the Monsoon Show was, I believe. It's at the historic firehouse on Prince. And we handed out flyers, put out signs, got a lot of feedback. And then the project data collection, so traffic counts has already started. Like, we put out one round of traffic counts. There's going to be another round, I think, in the future. I'm not sure what dates. For the real detailed debrief on all this, there's the Prince Avenue user group meets tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and that will be in person but also streamed. And I believe that's meeting at City Hall. So I recommend for like all of the most actual up-to-date information from the project managers to kind of check that out. But
Dan, could you please send the link to the AIM listserv for that?
yes, I'll get. I'll see if they might be recording and then uploading afterwards,
okay,
which is kind of what we're doing here. So at the very least, I'll get a YouTube video that we can share.
Thank you.
Daniel, for the public that's watching right now or in person, how can they make public comments?
So there is what I'll do is I'll share my screen. Let's see, accgov.com/prints. Oh, that's my computer. So if you go to accgov.com/prints, here you can get all the information on the project. At the top, we've got a link to the story map in the survey or just the survey itself. The story map has a lot more of the information about the corridor and what's going on, and just kind of the background. It's got maps. I believe the survey also has maps that you can look through, but you can really get in and dig into like the design intent, which talks about kind of what the cross-section proposed, existing and proposed cross-sections are. And it also has kind of information about like the types of, like the design features are over here. There's materials, that kind of information. So it talks about the Zikla zippers and kind of what their function is. Yeah, if there's so if you go over here under feedback, this is the survey. I recommend this is where you would give any feedback. If you have questions, you can email tspots@accgov.com, or you can call this phone number, or you can reach out to me.
Teresa, there's your date, it's due November 23rd.
Yeah.
November 23rd, thank you. Okay, so you all have a little bit of time to get in there and give your feedback.
Yeah, and I believe there's contact info here at the bottom as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Thank you, Daniel.
yes. So with that, let's switch back over to the agenda. I believe, so Lauren says she's collecting some after footage. I'm guessing maybe next week.
Probably
And yeah, we did a walkthrough with the design consultants last week, and we went through with the commissioners. So the existing commission was on Tuesday. That was an hour-and-a-half walk audit. They asked a lot of really great questions, and we kind of gave them some insight into the process and flexibilities moving forward in terms of like what types of improvements we could make. And really, it's essentially, this is a test pilot. When it becomes permanent, it's not just a check mark of, okay, now it's permanent. like, we are looking at opportunities for, you know, addressing any concerns that are brought up through the survey. The survey is the really most helpful part of it, where we can really identify what are the traffic patterns doing, where are people getting confused, and we can start to address some of those. The consultant was really helpful to have on hand, because they pointed out areas where a lot of concerns, like, for instance, the road width at Pulaski, it's really tight in there, and that's because the contractor actually installed it 15 feet off from where it should have been. So there's some things like that where, you know, it's not something that we can really go out and fix at this point. We're halfway through the pilot, but it is at the top of the list for this is going to be a permanent consideration. And in addition to all of that, not just physical changes in the roadway of what needs to be changed or improved, but also in the process, we're going to have some debrief meetings with SPLOST and, you know, in terms of like doing the construction documents and how do we communicate with our contractors to ensure that they're really following the construction documents to a T. And then the morning after that, we did these at peak times so that people could be out there when the most congestion was going to be on the roadway. So it was the current existing commission on Tuesday, and next morning was the commissioner-elects or commissioners-elect. And yeah, so that was 8 a.m. and nice and chilly. But I think it went really great. Stephen, do you have any comments on that?
I was just glad to see people engaged with it, and I felt like it was great interaction. I would love to do more of those more often.
And technically, it is still under construction. Once they finish their final checklist items, we will be completed.
Are there like major things left on their checklist at this point?
They're some of the things, like one of the points is that if you look at some of the turn radii, we have these the speed table things that are kind of in the bulb out. There's a couple spots with I can't remember what they're called, but essentially like mini speed tables, and the vertical delineator is really supposed to be on the inside, because that is an area that's supposed to allow for tracking of like vehicles and trailers, and it's not as big of a bump as like a zipper, and so those vertical delineators aren't really meant to be run over. That is supposed to be like the extent of where that needs to happen. So they were installed backwards in a couple spots. So those are things that the contractor is currently working on. And
but how do you feel like the pilot's going?
I feel like it's been very successful. You know, the major times that I've seen congestion, even when it's like a long line, they all clear out through one signal, which is, you know, ultimately our goal is to reduce speed without affecting delay. As someone who lives on Prince and drives that corridor every day, specifically making sure I'm driving through the pilot to see what it's like to drive through in addition to walking and biking, I haven't been delayed. It's just, you know, there's not as many people zipping around me, but I'm curious what y'all think. I'm sure you guys have heard that a bit.
Same experience. We sat out at the Grit, RIP, one evening and just watched cars go by 5:30 on a Friday, 5 o'clock on a Friday, and they were moving, and they were moving slowly, and they weren't stopped, they weren't backed up, there was no conflict. It was before the crosswalk had really been moved, like people were still trying to cross on foot at the Grit, even though there was no crosswalk there. That was the only real conflict that any of us noticed. So super encouraging. Definitely merging into the straight lane to continue up to here for this meeting today was a challenge, and I'm glad that there was a public comment about that, but I know that will be ironed out. I trust you guys completely. Turning kind of that opposite approach, turning left from Pulaski onto Prince, that flex post is way too close to the corner, and it either needs to be taken down or moved, because if you're going 20 miles per hour left through there, like, you're gonna come into a lot of trouble. So if that
That's
thing,
where, that 15 feet,
that was the 15 feet, okay.
that is,
Okay,
Ah.
that is treacherous right there.
yeah. So I'm hoping with that, we can, I mean, we're not gonna really be able to change the markings, but we
Sure.
could take those delineators out. I think that's on the punch list, but,
Okay, great.
we can verify that tomorrow at the meeting.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Two things I wanted to mention quickly. The Georgia Bike Walk Live Summit is coming up in, next week. Scott is leading a biking workshop on Prince Avenue to talk about these changes, and Mayor Gertz is leading a walking workshop on Prince Avenue to talk about these changes. You must register to attend, but it's free. So,
Good.
How do you register?
GeorgiaBikes.org has registration info. And the other thing I wanted to mention is while I was walking with the mayor and talking about this workshop, he mentioned that he's had great response from people about this project. He's only heard from about 20 people total though,
Mm.
which I think is incredibly low.
Mhm.
So he's only gotten 2 negative comments back on it, but he's only gotten 20 total comments. And so I think that everyone here, maybe even all you guys in the big conference room, get people to talk to their commissioners and talk to their mayor about how important this project is, because if they're, it's great that they can look at survey results from an online questionnaire, and they can hear feedback secondhand from tabling opportunities. But if they hear directly from you about this and how important it is to you for safety, for convenience and connectivity and everything else, they're much more likely to support it.
That's an excellent point, Jim.
Yeah. And really, and it's one of those things too, where we can't address what we don't know about, and so, like, any amount of critique, whether like, it's like, hey, I feel unsafe when I'm driving through this particular spot, or this feels really tight, those are important things for us
Right.
to know, so.
Especially after what happened with Barnett Shoals,
Yeah.
I think it would be a complete travesty to see this thing go away
Right.
at the end of this trial
Right.
period.
I mean, there are people out there, on Facebook, people I know, complaining about it. So I try to redirect them to the survey and, hopefully they will participate in that.
Well, and my hope with that is that, and the comments that I've seen was, I've seen stuff from people who are like, honestly, I thought it would be a lot worse than it was when I did drive through there. And there's a lot of people who are avoiding driving through because of the perception that it will be terrible, but maybe haven't actually driven through to experience it. So
I've seen a ton of that, not as bad as I thought it would be.
yeah, and that's where I'm kind of getting my information of like the success levels of it, because really like that on the ground experience is what's important. And if you, what was I gonna say? Well, I can't remember what I was gonna say, but if I remember it, I'll bring it back up.
Okay.
Well, good job to Daniel and Stephen and Ronnie and everybody else on the team.
Really,
Yeah,
yeah,
agreed.
Truly fantastic work.
I'm super impressed with the work you all have done.
Oh.
Go ahead.
You remember?
Well, the mayor's only heard from 20 people or so. I will say we have over almost 800 comments, if not more than that now, in the
Wow.
survey, which, so we got a little bit of a debrief, and there's been some really helpful comments, and ultimately, I think there is a majority that feel safer, whether biking, walking, or driving. And even with those results, I will say that they specifically mentioned that there have not been very many people who bike who filled out the survey. The majority of respondents have come back from drivers, even though it's still shown as overall a positive impact. So
That's
What
better yet.
What I've seen there is, I've commuted in this town on bike for 20 years, including Oconee Street, Barnett Shoals, Millage, College Station. What I've seen is people who look like everybody in this room using that project, not like, somebody wearing Lycra times 50 out there every day. It is young people, older people, men, more women than I've ever seen are riding that bike lane. It's really been like a great cross-section of the community, and ability levels and things like that.
I have to agree. I mean, I put my bicycle, which got repaired for me, in the back of my car, and I drove it over here to, Public Works, parking lot, and I rode both directions with my helmet on, thank you, and I felt so safe. It was fun. It was, you know, I never would have done it without those bike lanes. I would not have considered it for 1 minute, because that stretch of Prince is just too dangerous. All
I'm
right.
gonna jump in. I'm assuming this is from the upstairs version of me. So
You don't know
to
it
quickly introduce ourselves, I'll start and then we'll go around the room. I'm Daniel Sizemore. I'm the Bike, Pedestrian, and Safety Coordinator with Athens-Clarke County, and
John Devine, I'm on the AIM Commission.
Hello, I'm Dale Van Camper. I'm the representative from the Oconee River Greenway Commission to the AIM Commission.
Teresa Friedlander, Vice Chair of Athens in Motion, filling in for Lauren Blais, our chair, who is not here tonight.
And Randy Halstead, also on the AIM Commission.
James Parliament on the AIM Commission.
Blaine Van Noten, I'm the UGA representative on the AIM Commission.
Last but not least,
I'm Scott Long, I'm the Executive Director for Bike Athens.
And I'm also gonna do a little bit of rewind because we, at the beginning of the meeting, have a chance for public comment. So I wanted to give everybody a chance, if they had public comment, to go ahead and just let us do that. So I guess it's an open call for public comment. Anyone from the public who wants to speak?
does that include us?
No, it does not.
I do have a question. I'm very curious. So when November 23rd comes and the survey closes, what is the approach that the commission takes if it's 75% negative and you realize that maybe there are a bunch of different concerns that people are having? What is that next step? What is the process that the commission goes through?
So it's to identify those concerns. So ultimately, we have a lot of data that we're collecting. And so there's the kind of the public reception of it, but there's also the like kind of on the ground data of counts, speeds, crash rates, that kind of thing. And so all of that data gets aggregated together. We present all of that data to the mayor and commission, and then they make a decision as to whether it stays permanent or whether there are new changes proposed. You know, from my perspective, I think we all know that Prince Avenue wasn't really working before, and so if this isn't working, like, then what else, like, what's the next pilot? What's the next experiment? So, yes.
Hi. As far as the piece you mentioned earlier where something was installed by a contractor, I don't remember exactly what piece you were referring to, but where it was installed, I think 15 feet off from where it was planned to be, and now that's impacting kind of the functionality of the project. What are the next steps with that?
So yeah, with those, so some of the things, if it's like a barrier that's slightly in the way, or like a driveway thing where things are too close and it's affecting people's ability to turn right, anything like that, those can easily be removed or relocated. Those are really easy to fix by the contractor, and we've given them a punch list, which is essentially a checklist at the end of a project. For the larger things where they would have to completely close down Prince to scrape up all of the paint, move it back, put it back down there, those are things that we'll address in the final iteration of it. So there will be more construction in the future when it goes to be made permanent, but we'll determine whether that's something that gets fixed in January or whether it gets fixed in a year when we go to repave it. Those are all things that we're going to work with the designer to kind of figure out the next steps. And all of that would move through mayor and commission as well.
But I think, to get back to your question, you know, if we were getting an overwhelmingly negative response, well, that tells us that it's not working.
Yes.
And therefore, we would not, you know, be having this discussion. We'd be having a different discussion about why it didn't work, what people didn't like, you know, why couldn't we safely put in bike lanes?
Well, and what changes can we make to continue
get to the
trying,
next iteration?
Yeah. I think one of my personal opinion is that with the way that Barnett Shoals was tested out and then just removed at the end of that pilot, I felt like they should have tried a more traditional bike lane approach on either side, which, you know, would have allowed for safer crossings. There's been still a ton of requested, I get probably 4 or 5 a year from getting a mid-block crossing to the vet school, and that can't be done in a 4-lane configuration. So, you know, we can't really make these safety improvements with, you know, other conditions going on. So in that situation, like, my approach would be to say, all right, well, let's give it a month or so, or let's go ahead and try a new configuration, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no, like, let's say the feedback is negative, there is no going back to the original. It's just building upon what has already been done here with the pilot project?
So that's my staff opinion, but mayor and commission, they really are the final decision makers. Like, if mayor and commission votes to remove it and switch it back to original configuration, then that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And that's easily done because these things are temporarily installed.
Yeah.
You know, it's paint and it's some pylons and things like that.
So after the survey, this temporary versus permanent, I heard you bring up something about a more permanent solution, how we're just in like the test right now. So let's say the survey is mainly positive. What is that transition to it becoming permanent? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we have some recommendations from staff and from the consultant as well who did the design work. It will be, you know, we're already going through the online comments and we're making changes where they're being identified. In some cases that might be a better transition into the center turn lane, you know, because right now we didn't change the configuration of the left, straight, or right turn lanes as you are driving eastbound on Prince and coming to Pulaski. That is the same configuration, but you used to have 2 lanes of travel, and now we only have 1. So your right lane of travel that you're in turns into a right turn only. And the first time a driver goes through those, they get confused. And now most people have caught on and everyone's moving over to go straight. But I think there's some striping changes that we can make there to make that a little more clear. Signage along the whole corridor needs to be updated and changed. That's something we'll work with our traffic engineering division on. And, you know, in some cases, you know, whether it's, you know, if an identified, like there's a blockage here or like, you know, there's parking spaces blocking a line of sight, maybe that parking space gets removed. Like, those are all things that there's going to be a lot of other meetings, and it's through the Prince Avenue user group. But I think the schedule is, the deadline is the 23rd of November, and there's a special called work session and voting session that I believe is going to be October, or no, that's the current month, December 13th. So that gives us about 2 weeks to get all the stuff in, like the final comments, package that up for informing them before they make their decisions.
Of course. So with all the uncertainty, is there anything, I mean, I'll ask all of you, is there anything that you guys, in your opinion, think will stick for sure? That anything that you have seen with the adjustments that they've made to Prince Avenue, whether it be the bike lane or the turning lane or the traffic reduction, what do you think a part of that is going to be permanent, will stick through all of the surveys?
I mean, based on the current impression, the current 3-lane configuration is successful. It's successfully slowing people down, and delay times are not being changed too much. So my hope is that it does stay 3-lane, and that's kind of the gist that I've gotten from everyone. I think one point of concern that people have brought up is the zippers, which are the plastic things, and they've been, you know, if you drive into them, you will get a blown tire probably, just depending on how fast you're going.
On your bike, in your car.
In your car,
yeah.
Yeah, on your bike, you might go over your handlebars.
You got a hard time.
But those are meant to mimic a curb, and so the same way that, like, if you're driving in a regular road and you hit a curb, you might blow your tire. So when we explained, that was one of the questions we got a lot from the commissioners about. These things seem kind of aggressive and they're popping tires, and so we just made sure that they understood that this isn't meant to be a speed bump. This is meant to be a curb, and it's meant to really, it's like blowing a tire or killing a cyclist, like,
Yeah.
the blown tire is preferred.
Daniel, I guess I would say as part of the Prince Avenue user group, that is one of the biggest conversations they are having is, what do we want to do instead of those zippers or as maybe a modified version of those. So that is certainly one of the biggest discussions that might come up in December as what does that piece of separation between the travel lane and the bike lane look like?
And as
Permanently.
as a point of clarification on the slowing people down, but not, like what Daniel was saying, we want them to slow down as far as speed is concerned. So we want them to be driving slower, but we're hoping it doesn't result in excess congestion because cars are moving slowly, but they're continually moving. And sometimes that's confusing because you're like, wait, you want to slow down cars, but you don't want them to be slowed down too much. What does that mean? That's what we're talking about. We're saying cars are moving slower, like they're driving at 20 miles an hour instead of 40 miles an hour, but they're not stopping and starting and stopping and starting. They're just moving continuously. So that's the goal for Prince, is that cars would steadily move at a slower speed so that they're not harming anyone.
Right.
Well, Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't we this commission expected to have a letter of recommendation to the mayor, good, bad, or indifferent? There'll be a letter of recommendation from us, but eventually it'll be up to the mayor and commission to make a decision whether to move forward with this or to go back or anything in between. But a letter of recommendation containing both good, bad, and indifference will come from this group.
That's the last point on the agenda for the Prince Avenue pilot project. So we need to have the letter from Athens in Motion finalized before the December 6th mayor and commission meeting. All right.
We can approve that letter at our next Athens in Motion meeting.
Right. Which
we'll plan through email.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll plan through email, so then it would have to be before. So our meeting has to be before December 6th.
December 6th or is it the special call?
Well, yeah, it's the 13th is the special call, so it's the 13th, but I'm not sure if there's like a deadline to get them in front of the commissioners. It could be like, if it's a special called session, you have printed versions that get distributed at the meeting itself, but.
All right, well, unless someone else is just dying to do it, I will volunteer to draft this letter. So unless one of y'all really wants to do it, anybody?
So approved.
I think Lauren was interested in helping with that.
Okay, all right, yeah, I mean, if Lauren wants to do it, that's great.
Well, I would say, I would offer, just to check in and see.
Yeah.
I'm sure, and it's the kind of thing where we can draft it through email, like with.
Yeah, I mean,
stuff like that.
it takes a village to write a good letter.
Are we gonna have an opportunity to review the data from the survey, or are we gonna talk about it at the next meeting maybe, or?
Yeah, no, that's, well, what I might see if I could get Diana to come talk to us. Because I know that she focuses on, what do you think, Stephen? Should we try to get Diana to come talk about the data, or?
If we're just talking about data, can we just get an email with them?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
Whatever you prefer, we can get Diana or we can get somebody from the design group, either, or just send the emails. It's whatever is easiest for y'all.
Yeah, I'll just say, can AIM get a rundown of the summary? And the primary source of that is going to be from the Prince Avenue user group, but I can take the information that's presented there and send it onto our listserv. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right, so it is 5 after 5, so we're 5 minutes over on our agenda. So unless there's further discussion on Prince Avenue, let's move on to staff updates. Is Todd with us this evening?
He is not.
Okay.
So we just saved 10 minutes.
All right, so no Todd.
He did not give me any updates. Todd had a death in the family, so.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, so then, we'll move on to transportation and public works. So we have Sherelle Hallam, our Vision Zero coordinator. Sherelle, is there anything to update us on?
Sure,
Hey, y'all. Sorry.
I'm gonna share the agenda for you, okay?
Okay.
All right. Sure. Do you want to talk about these?
Sure. So sorry, I didn't realize I had a specific agenda. I was just gonna tell y'all an update. So we have been working on well, we finished our Reconnecting Communities grant for Hawthorne Avenue, which was a lot of work, but hopefully we got it. It's a really cool grant opportunity if we get it. And we're working on a safe routes to schools. So GDOT let us know that there's some off-system funding to be spent near schools. So we're going out, using crash data as well as some equity data. We identified 5 schools, it's Alps Road Elementary, Stroud, Cleveland Road, Fowler Road, and I'm blanking on the 5th one. Daniel, do you remember?
Oh, no.
Was it Gaines?
Gaines Elementary. So we, those are the schools that we are going to go out and audit, and we will have more information for you about that later. So don't worry about it now, but we're contacting schools and we're working with Safe Routes to Schools Georgia to help us with that. So, it's a lot of moving parts, but I think it's gonna be a really great project once it's all done. And then, what's the upcoming walk audits planning phase?
Those might be discussing the safe routes to schools. So essentially, I think, and we could talk, we talked about this before. So we did a walk audit at Chase Street Elementary and that kind of, with Bike Athens just with John Devine.
Georgia Bikes.
Georgia Bikes, sorry. Too many names. With Georgia Bikes. And with that, we also were approached by GDOT for funding to implement safety improvements at some various schools around town. So we were talking about it, and when we first did it, we didn't have Sherelle on board yet, so we didn't really have staff capacity to do that. So now that Sherelle's here, she can lead that, and she's really taken it and run with it, and we're gonna organize, and we've looped in the people from Safe Routes to Schools at the state level to get kind of some insight from how they're running it. I think she's reached out to you, and I think we're all going to be kind of doing some walk audits.
Right.
And in terms of scheduling, I think we're looking at some of them this fall, maybe 1 or 2, and then the rest in the spring. Like not spring, but late winter.
Probably what's going to end up happening is we'll have our preliminary meetings this fall and maybe get to 1 or 2 walk audits, but most likely the walk audits are going to end up being in January. And once we have those scheduled, we will reach out to AIM, because we're going to want at least one person from AIM to be at each walk audit if possible.
Yeah. So I think that's what the walk audit's for. I'm going to jump back up here. So there were 2 traffic fatalities this past month. There was a pedestrian fatality on Cedar Shoals Drive, and there was a bike fatality on Prince Avenue on the GDOT-owned section. We sent out those reports through the listserv. The bike fatality was an injury. It was categorized as minor injury. It happened back in September, and then October 14th, I believe, he did not make it from his injuries. He received a traumatic brain injury, I believe. So those are 2 very tragic things that have happened in the last month. Are there any questions about those 2?
Yeah, I tried to look for this on Numetric, which is GDOT's big data site, and the data only show through 2001.
2021, yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
2021. We've had how many fatalities in 2022? Roadway fatalities?
We are at 9.
Nine.
We're at
And
9.
4 have been bike ped?
2, yeah, so I think
That's right.
2 bike, 2 pedestrian. So the majority of the fatalities this year have, wait a minute, that's not majority, but yeah, almost half.
But if you look at miles traveled,
Yeah.
trips made, anything like that,
Right.
this is extraordinarily alarming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
4 out of 9, people walking, people biking is, I hope that the mayor and commission understand that we need that money for Barber Street. We need this reconfiguration for Prince Avenue. We need better crosswalks, more sidewalks, more bike lanes, because these kinds of tragedies are going to continue happening, and it's not, there's no magic wand. There's investment and planning, education and enforcement that needs to happen.
Yeah, we actually, we just had a presentation to the new commissioners-elect. I'm not going to get that right. And one of the points of data that we identified is, while if you look at all of the crashes in the county, I don't know, Cheryl, should I go and pull up that slide that we had from it? I'm trying to remember. Or do you remember?
I think pulling up the slides is great. So there were 23,910 crashes, I believe, and 98% of them were vehicle only. But then,
What time period?
I'm sorry?
Last 5 years.
Last 5 years?
This is from Numetric.
Yeah, new metrics 2017 to 2021. But then when you looked at KA crashes, which is severe and fatal crashes, you're looking at 20% of those being bike and pedestrian crashes. So even though the percentage of crashes that are bike and ped related is a little over 1%, the percent of them that are severe or fatal is much, much higher. And so we tried to make the point to Mayor and Commission today that, this is why you have to focus on vulnerable road users.
Yeah, and, and I mean, part of that is that the majority of the, if someone gets bumped while walking across an intersection by a car and there's no physical damage to the car or the person, it's not always called in. There might be some words exchanged, but that is a crash and should be reported. Unfortunately, that's not always the case, and so that's where most of the bike and pedestrian crashes, like a much higher proportion of the ones that are reported, end up being severe or fatal. The other thing to note is, like, in the case with the cyclist, he was walking and talking, and they said, okay, well, this fits the description of minor injuries, but, adrenaline can do a lot during a crash, and he did not have a helmet on at the time, which is not required by law, so he wasn't breaking the law or anything, but he was riding on the sidewalk and didn't see the vehicle, and he kind of pulled out in the road and was struck, and so obviously he did sustain a traumatic brain injury that they identified in the emergency room later on, and but those are once the coroner contacts PD, then and only then do they change the status of that crash. And so that's another reason why when we look at the data, we're also trying to look at all crashes with bikes and pedestrians, whereas with cars we focus on, the severe and fatal. And so we just want to make sure that we're using as much data as we can. And, like, representing it in a truthful way.
Right.
I think, so, and then there was a report through one of the commissioners about, they actually witnessed a crash, Commissioner Jensen witnessed a crash on Hawthorne Avenue. Somebody was crossing across Hawthorne Avenue, and I believe there's a lot of people who are crossing Hawthorne Avenue. There are no mid-block crossings. It's very perilous. People fly through there. So we did a kind of impromptu site visit, walk audit with traffic engineering to kind of that process that we have of when a mid-block crossing is requested, go out, do a site visit. They're going to be doing some counts, and then we picked out 2 locations to set up cameras to determine where are the most popular crossing areas, and there's some money set aside to be able to do some mid-block crosses there. So, so hopefully it's kind of it's near some bus stops, and there's kind of this there's connection from the neighborhood over to some shopping centers, and so I even a staff person here told me earlier today. Last night she was driving through there, and a person on a wheelchair was like starting to roll out just to go across the street as she was driving. She didn't have time to react, but she went by, but she looked in the rearview mirror, and they were kind of going across, and wearing dark clothing, and it's just really difficult when they don't have any way to get across safely.
Yes,
So
in a wheelchair, the shortest distance is a straight, smooth line.
Yeah.
Yes, I do have a question. So I was looking at the Athens-Clarke County motor vehicle report, like for the year last year, and I think it said that there were 7 pedestrians that died and 1 bicyclist last year. But what was interesting was it said that the hot months were September and October. What makes these months this way? Like, have you guys noticed that trend? Like, is that something?
Yeah.
UGA students coming back to town.
You get this influx of 30 to 40,000 people, and whether it's a combination of, in some cases, new drivers, or people who have, just got their driver's license in the last 2 years, coming into a new place that you're not familiar with, pair that with people who live here and are using the roads in a certain way and are like, yeah, it's safe for me to cross here or to bike in this area. It's like not a high volume road, but then when students come back, those road volumes change. And so it's kind of a combination of, there's a huge spike in crashes. And with that increase in crashes, you get an increase in severity as well. So, did that cover that, Sherelle? Or do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. UGA students, and I'm just when we did our local road safety began the draft of it, we identified distracted driving, young students, intersections, pedestrians. These were our areas of concern, and there's a lot of overlap between those things. So impaired driving again is also another one. So I think you can probably make some connections of how these things relate to each other. So yeah, some of it will be reaching out to students, and a lot of it is just making the infrastructure foolproof so that when people do make mistakes, it's not costing lives.
Yeah.
Since we're doing okay in our schedule, would you be willing to put up that Vision Zero chart that I like so much, the one that shows, how fast you're going versus the distance and stuff? It's from the AIM plan.
Maybe just pull up our presentation from earlier, Daniel, that has that as well as the cost data.
I'm doing that now.
Yeah, because I think for our visitors, I think it would be particularly interesting to see why Vision Zero is so important to Athens in Motion and to the mayor and commission.
How do you view a presentation now? Oh,
Down bottom right.
yeah, it's
Oh, there it is. It's your slide number 16 over there.
yeah, there's just oh, there it is. There we go.
Oh.
So, let me just jump through. This is talking about what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Crash heat map. Here's that number of crashes by vehicle type. So it shows you the percentage breakdown. And then this is what all of the vehicular, and I think it came out to like 1.4 vehicular crashes. 1.4% of vehicular crashes are serious or fatal. And then, these are the pedestrian crashes, and it's more like 16.5% of all pedestrian crashes are serious or fatal. And then I believe it's 4.5, 3.5, 4.5 of all bike crashes are serious or fatal injuries. And then this is that breakdown. Yeah.
No,
4.5.
Daniel, it's, the percentage of pedestrian crashes that are fatal is 20%, and the percentage of bicycle crashes that are fatal is 13%. But that's the percentage that they make up of all crashes, right, in this slide.
Right. Yeah. So this is a graph of all fatal and serious injuries, and those are the percentages that I was spouting off. The other ones.
Yeah, sorry. I was just trying to say the percentage of pedestrian crashes that are fatal is 20%, or serious is 20%, but they make up 17% of serious and fatal injuries.
Thank you. Good looking out.
Yep.
I didn't mean to do that. All right. So this was an example that we showed. So when we talk about speeds, like lowering speeds for safety, and it's for safety for everyone. I mean, obviously this is talking about the survival rate of a pedestrian that's hit at this speed. So 20 miles an hour, 95% survival rate. 30 miles an hour has a 55% survival rate, and 40 miles an hour has a 15% survival rate.
And discuss the length of stopping distance.
And then you've got the 45 feet to stop on that 20 miles an hour. I mean, you guys can read it here, but this is also kind of important to look at. This is your field of vision. So you see someone walking out from the edge of the road, you might not see them until they're directly in front of you at 40 miles an hour, and it takes you 145 feet to stop. So, you know, really the way that we look at this is like, we know that no one, like, you know, the vast majority of drivers out there are not looking to kill anyone. They're just wanting to get to their destination in a quick and efficient manner. But a lot of people look at, well, you want me to drive half as fast, it'll take me twice as long to get there. But, you know, if you're looking at, for instance, Pulaski to Sunset Drive, which is essentially from the pilot project all the way out to where GDOT loop interchanges, if you made it all the way through that 1 3/4 mile segment without hitting any lights, it would take you 3 minutes and 30 seconds at 30 miles an hour. And then if you slow down to 20 miles an hour, that's 5 minutes and 15 seconds. That's like essentially a minute and 15 seconds. Am I 45? Thank you. Can't do math. A minute and 45 seconds of added time. That's not even considering the minutes that you are sitting at the stoplight. So just going slower and increasing that survival rate from 55 to 15, or 95%, 55 survival rate to 95%. So, so that's kind of some of the justification why we want to have slower speeds, without, you know, and also it talks about, it's also about consistency of, you know, not so much looking at efficiency of a roadway, but consistency of a roadway. So, if you can rely on Prince Avenue taking you 5 minutes to get through there, whereas like maybe before it was 3 minutes on sometimes, but then sometimes you'd hit traffic and have 20 minutes, and you can't account for that in your commute, like that, we don't want that to happen. Like sections of Hawthorne, for instance, I don't know if I'm going to make it on time to dog training if I leave at a certain time, because maybe there's a ton of people, maybe there isn't. So instead of having people go really fast and then stop and then wait in these long lines at the traffic lights, like how do you kind of even that pressure on the roadway system, kind of even that pressure out? So,
thank you for sharing that, Daniel.
yeah, I think.
All right. Do we have any, is there anything to say about upcoming walk audits or other items?
Nope, I don't think so. Anything else, Cheryl?
Sorry, it wasn't letting me unmute. Yeah, I think that's it on my end. I didn't know. Did I already update you guys on the neighborhood traffic management program stuff?
I don't think they know anything about it, if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, would love to hear it.
So one of the programs that's kind of falling under the safety purview is the neighborhood traffic management program, where right now it's request driven. It might not stay that way, but people who feel like people are speeding and that, you know, the cars are making their neighborhoods unsafe, can submit requests for traffic calming measures. So right now we just finished kind of the prioritization matrix for how we spend those funds, ranking them based on number of cars that are speeding and how fast they're going, and then some equity metrics that are related to vehicle ownership. And yeah, so we're doing that program right now, and we are also, in conjunction with that, developing a speed management toolkit that will help us have kind of a larger list of tools that we can pull from that help calm traffic. So right now, the only thing we do for traffic calming is speed bumps in neighborhoods, along with like some signs. But we're hoping to kind of have a few more things in our tool belt that we can pull from. And I think that's kind of a broad overview of where we're at with that. I think that the next round of projects will be going before mayor and commission soon. Stephen might know exactly when.
He's actually not on the call anymore. He had to drop. But yeah, as far as I think the other thing is we're working on the safe routes to school stuff, and then probably after that we're looking at getting the road safety audit going. And right now we're looking at, I think, 4 per year.
Yeah. The ultimate goal is 6, but we're setting the bar a little bit lower for 4. But yeah, right now we're trying to finish up those safe routes to schools audits so we can go ahead and get in the report to GDOT and request funding while the funding is still there. And then we'll be establishing kind of a road safety audit core team, as well as including people who need to be included on a project by project basis. But the plan for those is to go out and do a road safety audit the first month, and then the second month to have like a kind of team meeting to talk through all of the projects we identified and get them on their appropriate list. And then we're also working on the local road safety plan and a high injury network.
Yep. So that's our TPW update.
Okay, well, you all are hard at work as always, and we appreciate you. And Aaron, we appreciate you. We miss you. All right, so next on the agenda are the corridor committee updates. First one is Atlanta Highway, and that's my baby. I just emailed to the recommendation that the Atlanta Highway User Group forwarded to Mayor and Commission for their upcoming vote. And this concerns T-Spot 2018, Project 15, and it's concerning Timothy Road and Mitchell Bridge. And so it's a pretty long memo, so I won't read the whole thing.
I have it pulled up.
And, but, you know, we basically have 3 sets of things. We called them the must-haves are Tier 1, the highly wanted Tier 2, and the nice-to-have Tier 3. And that's not to say that we don't want all of them. We want all of them, but you can't have everything all at once. There's just not enough money. So the first things that we hope the Mayor and Commission will approve to go ahead with are to develop the shared use path along the southern side of Timothy Road between Skyline Parkway and Timothy Road Loop 10 with appropriate street crossings to make sure that nobody is kind of shut out of the infrastructure. Timothy Road is kind of a complicated geography, and you know, it was complicated to figure out which side of the road to put the path on, you know, and Derek Dosser asked the civilians in the group to to make that recommendation, but we really couldn't do it. We didn't feel like we had the knowledge of, you know, what would go into one side versus the other in terms of construction. So the engineers came back and recommended that we do it on the southern side, because there'd be fewer utilities to move, and generally it's just going to be easier to construct. The second one was to develop a shared use path along the northern side of Mitchell Bridge Road between Auburn Parkway and the High Ridge apartment buildings, again with street crossings. This is a shorter route than the original conceptual design, this recommendation, I think, will do a lot of good in the near term, and then of course we can add on to that as time passes and we have more money available. And then the third thing, and these are not in a priority order, but the third thing is back to Timothy Road to develop that shared use path to continue it on the northern side of Timothy from the Timothy intersection near Loop 10, all the way down to the Rhodes Drive entrance of the Berkeley Hills subdivision, because that community, they're on a bus line, there are 2 bus stops, and we feel it's very important that that community also has access to the new facilities. So that's that. Our next meeting, we will talk about the remaining funds in T Plus 2018 and, you know, what we think should be the next projects and priorities for spending that money. Okay, so that is it for Atlanta Highway. Okay, Randy, do you have any report on?
Do we have any questions?
Oh, yeah, any questions on Atlanta Highway, anyone?
Nope. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Lexington Highway, Randy Halstead, anything?
No, actually, there was, no meeting this month, so I don't have any updates, from the update I gave in September.
Okay. All right, and then Prince Avenue, Mark Abel is not here, but we've already discussed Prince Avenue, so.
Yep, that's what we're doing.
Yep. I don't think we need to say anything more on that. Okay. So now we'll move on to our committees, grants and data. Again, the chair, Mark, is not here. Anybody else on that committee have anything they
No
share?
committee meeting.
We didn't have a committee meeting.
We're just, we've been applying for grants internally, and we haven't had a chance to really reach out to get assistance. But there is something that came up from multiple sources about Bloomberg, $1 million for bike infrastructure. So I haven't finished looking into it, but it's going to be rolling applications, which means just get the application in. And I'm not, I haven't had a chance to look into, you know, that might be really helpful for things like if there are bike lane gaps in certain areas where maybe we did our repaving projects and we weren't able to do widening to account for, you know, keeping bike lanes, so you end up with these sharrows, like for instance with, I think Rock Springs and Oglethorpe and half of our bike lanes in town, Hull Street.
Two-thirds.
Two-thirds of our bike lanes. College Avenue. So maybe we can, if that could be something that'd be helpful to get the grants, or if some people from the grants committee, or honestly, if people from the commission in general want to work on that as kind of a task, we don't necessarily have to do like in-person meetings if it's like giving someone
A work group.
A work group, yeah. I mean, if we call it a work group, then yes, it has to be in-person meeting. If it's a committee or a work group of any sort, but like, for instance, when we get to policy and projects, he's been working on some policy stuff kind of on his own, and he'll bring it to the overall commission, and we'll be able to talk about it then. But we just need to make sure that any topics of discussion that we're having, where decisions are being made, or the processes are being talked about even, is in person. But if there's just like some coordination that happens where two of you are working on something and you need to have a conversation, we don't need to have an in-person meeting for all that. Like, it's a little crazy, so. So yeah, if somebody from the commission wants to maybe take a look at the Bloomberg grant.
What is the timeline on that, do you know?
I think it said rolling applications until like February.
Okay.
So
I may be able to help with that,
Cool.
but not,
That'd be awesome.
certainly not in the next couple of weeks.
no, yeah. Get your special event, or
The summit,
yeah.
summit's gonna be over soon. I think that kind of money, you know, it may not seem like a lot when you're talking about infrastructure, but how much is Prince projected to cost from millage to Pulaski?
I mean, so far, I think, we have spent only like 300,000 or 400,000,
Yeah.
So
we
that
could be looking at,
includes like all the coordination,
Yeah.
design,
we
and,
could be looking at 2 to 3 Prince Avenue projects of reconfiguring existing asphalt, restriping, assigning new lanes and things like that for $1 million, rather than saying like, okay, widening is super expensive. Building a greenway in Athens that'll get you a half a mile of greenway.
yeah.
But a lot of this stuff can be done with $1 million. So if anybody else is interested in talking about that, let me know. And it doesn't have to be right now. We can get together without having a meeting.
Cool.
That's awesome. Thank you, John. Okay, education and communications, that's my baby. So we really haven't, done all that much recently, other than, we did provide tabling resources for Porch Fest. Although I think it worked out a little bit differently than we had initially thought, but that's okay. All that matters is that we were there and we got it done. And then, Daniel has been, considering working with, Scott Long Bike Athens to see about possibly getting some help with putting out social media communications.
Well, the conversation's come up, but we haven't, like,
Yeah.
there's not been any formal proposal or conversation, like, official or anything.
If we want to go in that direction, it will cost us money from our budget, and we would have to have a vote on that. But I think it could be a really great thing if we were to pursue it, because some of us are not really that great at social media. No names shall be mentioned. Although we try. And I think that we have a social media schedule, but it's kind of hard to, you know, kind of put a post together.
It's an art.
Yeah,
There's
it's
a reason
an art,
why
and it
there's a
requires,
major at UGA.
it requires a little more expertise than you know,
We currently have.
than, you know.
Well, not only that, but, I mean, we don't have anybody on the commission. We have staff liaison, but we don't have anybody who's paid to spend time on this as a
Right.
commissioner. And so if we use resources to make sure that's getting done, then more people know about the work we're doing.
Right. Yeah.
What's our budget for the year? That expires at the end of the year?
It was like 12,000.
And that goes away?
I think it's 12,500, and yes, it goes away.
But I mean.
At the end of the fiscal year, not this calendar.
Yeah, but we
so
can
June
ask
30th.
for more, at our annual meeting,
Yeah.
which was currently scheduled for the same day as Greenway, but we're gonna try and move that, we'll be discussing the budget, because, you know, we need to figure out what we need.
Sure.
Well, but we also have to show that we're spending the money that we are getting.
Yeah.
Last year, we did
Yeah,
not
yeah,
finish spending it all,
exactly,
so.
exactly.
I think, you know, we all kind of saw how quickly it can hit, starting when you start the conversations about spending money in January.
So,
June is not that long away. So,
yeah.
I think it's always important, you know, it's the kind of thing where, you know, a contract labor position could be paid for where, you know, whether it's paying for an intern to help us with data analysis for the bike ped master plan revision, or if it's, you know, a certain amount of hours. We have kind of standard, you know, we don't like to pay less than 15 an hour, but we have standard rates, you know, for if there were something with, you know, social media. But those are all things that, you know, we'll figure out, but, if there's ever anything that you guys want to bring forth to also, like, set some money aside for something, bring it up.
Right.
Okay.
Well, if anybody is interested in discussing sponsorship of the Georgia Bike Walk Live Summit, then I would be happy to send out an email.
Yeah,
about
send
that.
us the info.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Tomorrow.
we can, anything that furders our cause for increasing, you
And
know,
then I will
bicycle,
step out of
pedestrian
the
safety and infrastructure. Spend it on. All right. That's pretty much it for education and communications. You know, Facebook and Instagram is what we've been doing. I'm sure there's more out there, but, you know, I'd have to ask. Well, I don't have grandchildren, but if I had grandchildren, I would ask them, you know. All right, so policy and projects, Randy.
Yeah, so currently, the major item we're working on right now is looking at crosswalk policy.
Yeah.
Just a quick synopsis of what's been done so far is that several individuals within AIM looking at policies of other cities and come up with a couple of good examples of what is out there. And I'm currently working on a couple different, combining them together putting the verbiage together and combining some great diagrams coming out of the city of Denver.
Mm-hmm.
It was very verbose. It really could be about a quarter of what it could be, but they had some great diagrams and some very easily understandable language. So combining that with a couple other cities and get that to Daniel for his review, and then hopefully get that to the full commission for vote. I would say, hopefully the next meeting. I have it about half finished. My PDF program did not work as well as I thought it would for doing OCR. So it's not real long, so it's not too bad to retype it.
Gotcha.
The diagrams are a bugger. It's a move, but we're getting there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, you know, it probably might be helpful to do I think it makes sense that we schedule the committee meetings kind of ad hoc instead of having a standing meeting.
Yeah.
So, I think we can discuss kind of when we want to do that through email, and we'll get something on the books, and then if we can get it, if you'd like it to be discussed at our next commission meeting, then we can do a committee meeting sometime in November.
That's my target right now, is like maybe pre-Thanksgiving.
That
is, that we get a policy and projects where we can look at the draft and then hopefully, make whatever changes need to be necessary to bring it to the full commission.
Yeah.
That first week of December.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how full the agenda is gonna be for that meeting, because that is our annual meeting, so we might have to push it to January, and I hate to do that, but,
All right.
but, you know, that's really Lauren and Daniel's call. I'm just filling the chair today.
For sure.
All right.
Well, I was gonna just jump back. If you do want to put forth like what's it called, like sponsorship of the Bike Walk Summit, I think the vote would need to happen in person. We have a quorum. If you abstain, we still have a quorum. So if you want to put forth like a request, I think.
Yeah, you know, it feels a little last minute to me. So, I mean, unless anybody really feels strongly about it, I can do this next year and with more notice and
Okay,
an
so
actual request.
when we're doing the budget, you know, if that's
Yeah.
something that you wanna like put in there, you know, and.
Right. I didn't realize we couldn't e-vote, so that's,
Yeah.
I think
We could
putting
do
on the floor right
but
now.
well, even a special call session would need to be in person.
Right.
Let's not do that.
So.
Exactly.
But thank you for bringing it up, and I, you know, I think it's probably just a little last minute. It's not an
No
emergency.
problem.
Okay, so Blaine, do you have any, reports from the university for us?
Yeah, I actually have a few things. I touched on it last meeting, but it's coming up soon. Thursday, November 17th, we're having our annual bicycle safety inspection. It's called Operation Safe Drive at the Tate Student Center. Mike Athens and Scott will be generously have donated their time, and they will be there with us again. So we're looking forward to that. It's typically the coldest morning of the year every time we do it.
Whatever day you have it on.
Whatever day. It's always very cold, but it's great. So it's a great opportunity for us, especially with Transportation and Parking Services, to give a little bit something back. So thank you, Scott, for being there. And we're looking forward to that. We completed a lighting at the park and ride lot. I think I talked about that a little bit last time. It's that section that's closest to the greenway, and so all the lights are installed. They were on back order and delayed, and so everything is lit and looking good up there. Perfect time for the fall. And then in conjunction with that, we are having some RVs parked out there for the Tennessee football game on on November 5th, and we're going to utilize the greenway to get people from the park and ride lot to the stadium, and so it will be darker. So we're going to rent some kind of portable lights to put out on the greenway to make sure people can get through there safely. We did that for the Auburn game, and it worked out very well. But it was especially dark underneath the bypass in that one little section. So we actually had staff members standing there with flashlights, waving, and golf carts just to make sure people knew they could get there and they were safe. But Dale, it might be something we could meet out there if you want to see what it looks like lit up at night. I'm not sure how much we want to encourage people to utilize it at night, but if we ever think about putting lights there permanently, it's kind of a good opportunity. We actually noticed in the Auburn game there was people that were parking out there. It's just a free parking lot, and they were parking there and walking to the game and walking back. It was a nice little.
I parked there before, and only for day games, because the wife says she doesn't want to walk through there when it's dark.
Sure, sure. So it might be something to look into going forward. Yes.
I think that's a great policy for us to evaluate. This leisure services business of closing greenways after dark is mind blowing to me. If I say I'm a UGA staff member or student and I live on the east side and I need to get to campus, I have until dark to get home. And then I have to get on my bike on Lexington Road, Coney Street. I think that's a policy that we should recommend improvements to through leisure services.
Yeah, I personally was out there. It's pitch black out there with no lighting. I mean, there's moonlight.
Well, Willow Street even has lights, and it's closed because it's not lit.
Right. So we'll be doing that, and then just lastly, we did some bike sweeps on campus earlier or last week, just picking up some bicycles that were clearly abandoned. And I know Scott has taken some of those. Scott, I think we need to kind of going through this again. We need to revamp our own kind of internal policy, but I'd love to get you involved, and maybe we can capture some of these bikes that are clearly abandoned, but in a state where you can still revamp them and do some of them we picked up are just strictly recycling. I mean, there's no way. I know you can't do anything with them. So maybe we can kind of look at developing a policy or some language that we can pick them up and store them before they get to that point, so we can reuse them.
You're gonna have to get around state law, but good luck.
Well, maybe, something. I mean, you've seen some of them that you said, I can't take these, so maybe we could get them.
It would have been great 6 months ago.
Right. Yeah, maybe we could do something with it to just look into it. On our side, it hasn't been looked at in a few years.
Do you have like a garage or a storage place you can do the lost and found or something?
We do, and there are some requirements about duration, how long they have to be tagged on campus for a certain amount of period, and they have to be tagged and stored in a locker. And some of the ones we just took out of the locker, Scott couldn't even use. We had them stored for 90 days, and then we just took them to Charn.
Right.
And it's like, what do we even do? So maybe we can get to a point where we can store some that we know Scott can use, and if nobody takes them, he knows he can grab those, and the other ones we can just go ahead and take. So we'll definitely bend your ear about that. It just needs to get looked at again. So we're going to try to set up a more consistent pattern where we're picking them up, and some more communication, certainly with student housing, about reminding people that they're there, or if they don't want them, they can donate them, and where they can take them, or we'll pick them up and take them for them, and just something like that just needs to get reevaluated. So we're gonna put some attention on that, and Scott will definitely reach out to you guys, and John, maybe you about that.
That's all Scott.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Scott.
I can say that I'm very, very familiar with the previous process and sort of opportunities and challenges that are there, so I would be happy to talk about it.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so Greenway.
Wait, one more thing.
Oh, one more
On
thing,
the university, sorry, I just want to also point out how fantastic the Grady School of Journalism is, and our journalism students are amazing, and, that's the official stance of the university.
Well, I think the representatives in this room are very impressive.
I didn't realize that you guys were here.
Yeah, and then also see the conference room there.
Just trying to get an assignment done, yeah.
Right.
Very interesting.
We'll probably be reserving the main space upstairs from now on for future meetings.
Oh, that'd be great, yeah, I like that room.
So,
All right, Dale, you have any updates for the Greenway?
For that update, I'll just, second, what Blaine just said is a Grady grad. Good to see all these, students out there.
Absolutely.
But the Greenway, yes, update from the Greenway, we have the dedication of the new Oconee Cemetery section of the Greenway coming up a week from Thursday, 10:30 in the morning. That's really being handled by the cemetery folks. They put out all the invitation, and it's they're the lead on that, but, it's nice to have that section, being completed, and that dedication will be November the 3rd,
and is that open to people? Because I got an official invitation for me and the chair of Athens in Motion, but I would say if anyone is biking through the section as it opens, I don't know, what's y'all's stance on it?
That's why I just gave a disclaimer. We're not in charge of this event. It's being handled by the folks at the cemetery, and they have limited the access. We've asked them to be more generous on that, but they have not replied in the affirmative.
Okay.
But they asked us for a list of, and they limited the number of invitees. That's why invitations were actually sent out.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the folks that they're counting on being there. But I don't think there's anybody there at the door, so to speak, taking up. So if somebody on a bike happens to be coming through, I don't think they're going to be shut down. 10:30 on Thursday the 3rd.
Is the trail complete for riding now?
That's what I'm told. I have not walked it yet, but that's what I'm told.
People are currently biking through there.
That's what I've been told.
People have been biking through there for a long time.
Forever. Just saying officially.
People biking through there on complete concrete now?
There's soft closure, there's like soft openings, and then there's official openings. This is the official, I believe. Now, I don't know that all the checklist has been done, all the railing is in, but I believe concrete is continuous.
But along the same line, just be aware that part of the Greenway now will be under the control of the cemetery group, and they have installed a gate.
Mm-hmm.
There will be times, like UGA football games, where it will be closed off. And again, that's not under our control.
Sure. Have they confirmed? I know that for certain, funerals, they want to have the ability to close, but I was under the impression that it was more of a safeguard if they needed to start. If vandalism increases because of the Greenway, then they're able to close, but
it is, put it this way, it's out of our control. We've been negotiating with them as to what exactly they want to close it for, and I haven't seen anything specifically in writing, but I believe what your comments are what we've been hearing, but we don't know for sure because we don't have anything that I know of in writing saying exactly. But the physical structure is in place, so that it is possible that somebody could come upon there and find that gate closed.
Unbelievable.
all right.
Hopefully, that won't happen very often.
If it does, please let us know, because we want to have that feedback.
Sure.
We have 3 current openings on the commission, so if you have any friends, relatives, or concerned citizens who would like to serve, encourage them to apply. But we have 3, it's been a tough time for us to get quorums when we have that many openings on the commission.
Are you putting
No.
that on social media or anything like that?
Yes, we allocated some funding actually for some
Okay,
ads to be run.
all right.
You may double check your bylaws, but I think quorum is for active members, so those 3 vacancies can be taken out of, so like if we had 3 vacancies here, quorum would be down to 4 and not 5, I think.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Half plus
That
one.
has not been discussed.
So y'all might still have quorum, I mean,
It should be based on membership, not slots.
yeah, so with 10 members, I think it's like 6 is quorum. And so if you normally you had 10, but you're down to 7, then that would be half plus 1, so
Gotcha.
4 members. So just a little bit, double check that with probably Public Information Office, but maybe take that back and see if that's the thing.
We'll do. I believe that's it for Greenway.
Okay, then, Lauren's not here. She would update us on, all things T-Splost,
I have one update.
okay?
It is now T-Splosh 2022
I was gonna say,
and not 2023.
yay.
Collections have started. Oh.
Okay, it has become 2022 because the money is already starting to roll in.
Which means that 11
Or
collected,
18.
18.
So the way that this works,
Collected.
for anyone who's not familiar, T-Splosh, Transportation Special Purpose Local Optional Sales Tax, Special Projects?
Special purpose local
Special
option
purpose.
sales tax.
Right.
Yeah. So Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax, SPLOST, adds a penny onto sales tax for, I think it's not for every purchase. Like if it's like groceries or pharmacy, like things like that you need to survive, those the baseline sales tax. But for anything kind of above that, whether it's like food at a restaurant or shopping, clothes, that kind of stuff, you get an extra penny. So there's SPLOST, there's E-SPLOST, and there's T-SPLOST. So E-SPLOST is education, T-SPLOST is transportation, and SPLOST is just general projects that could be transportation, that could be anything. T-SPLOST 2018, they have basically a specific amount of money that they anticipate getting from that T-SPLOST, and that's over 5 to 6 years usually. And but that is a certain set amount of money. And so essentially what we found out was there's a lot more spending, I guess through pandemic or for whatever reason, we were gathering money a lot faster than planned. You can't gather more than is approved in that referendum. And we didn't want an interruption in service where it would drop down and then add back up, because that just gets really complicated. And so in the spring, T-SPLOST 2023 was voted on with the anticipation that we would have all of T-SPLOST 2018 collected by 2023. But it's all been collected. So now we're starting to collect for 2022, and anticipated lifespan of that is 5 years.
All right, so we may be having another T-Splost committee coming along in 3 years.
Never too soon to start up the process.
Yeah, well, anyway.
Do you have questions about that?
Not about that, but I just have 2 that I'd like to ask at the end, just
Cool.
in general, so
Okay.
that you guys.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and close out.
I think we're, that's basically it, because Lauren would give us the update. She's the queen of all things T-Splost. She's right here, so, why don't you go ahead now?
Okay, yeah, so
Well, are
my
we
first.
still in the meeting, or are there questions for the committee, or what's the deal here?
Well, I just had a question to know, like, what, for my fellow, like, classmates who might not be at the next meeting, to end off on a good note, like, what should they be optimistic about to see from the committee? What are you guys most excited about moving forward from today?
If you want to be excused, you may be excused.
Okay, thanks.
All right,
Appreciate it.
bye,
Thanks for your
John.
time. Thank you, guys. All right.
Safe out there. Oh, gosh.
Most excited? Does everyone have a most excited thing?
I'm excited about Vision Zero, because every time I hear about one of those fatalities or serious injuries, I just get sick. And most of them are preventable, okay? And people
All
in
of
the
them
city
are, yeah.
drive pretty badly, I would say, and, I think we we need to do a better job just as a community in every possible dimension of making it safer.
All fatalities and serious injuries are preventable.
So that's what I'm excited about.
Safe routes to school, as a schools person. I mean, I really believe in kids having safe ways to walk and ride to school. It creates a healthier community and a healthier school, better attendance, better academics, research shows.
Interesting that you say that. I presented something today that was about why kids are late, because transportation is so bad.
Yeah, and we're down 40 bus drivers this year. We're actively trying to
I'm getting
hire
asked if I
bus
want to be a
drivers.
bus driver every time I get on.
Yeah, so if we had more kids walking and riding to school, it would alleviate
Yeah, of course.
some of that.
Oh, yeah.
What about you?
I'm also with James, and I've got kids too in Clarke County.
Yeah.
So safe routes to school, the Greenway, places they can go and ride bikes and explore.
Oh, yeah, that too. Yeah.
So, those are things, I'm excited that I've only been on this commission a short time, but it's exciting that people are working behind the scenes to do these kind of things for the community.
Right.
We're just a small portion of it too.
All right, so you guys get to duke it out over who goes next. Why don't you go?
What I'm excited about is seeing the data from the pilot project so that we can find more efficient ways to move all types of traffic in Athens safely.
Yeah, and I'll just tail onto that, because the challenge within Athens is you can't improve at least vehicular infrastructure in the town. It's old, and the streets we have are the streets we have, and really I don't think it's overly radical, but the less cars we have on them, the better it is for everyone. So if we make it easier to walk, if we make it easier to cycle, if we make it easier to take mass transit, that is really the only way we're going to improve things. And for me, I'd just be happy to park my car and never start it again, and just ride my bike everywhere.
Wouldn't that be great?
It would be.
Yeah. So, Scott, you're not a voting member of this group, but we love you. Do you have anything that you're excited about?
I'm excited about the Prince Avenue. I want to see more of it. I mean, it's, John Devine was here saying about what you can do with less than $1 million. I'd like to see more of that, to see more places that I ride that connect to other parts of town feel safer.
Okay. And Daniel, what about you? You want the last word?
Doing whatever you guys want me to. No. No, I'm excited to really be able to see the data from the Prince Avenue, to see how we could kind of take this process, improve it, and not just like that one project, but just the concept of pilot projects, and really getting rolling into some cool opportunities where maybe, one of the things that I hope to get down the road is summer bike routes, where when we have 40,000 fewer people in Athens, we have these roads that are built for, in some cases, they're built for game day. They're built for 6 days a year.
Wow.
And can we do some temporary closures for a couple months during the middle of summer to just improve that connectivity, improve that ability for people to get around and enjoy Athens?
What a great idea.
Yeah, so just the whole process in general.
All right.
Agreed.
So your question was very timely, because the last agenda item on here was the AIM Commissioner round, where Lauren likes us to go around and just share our parting thoughts. So basically, I think we've done that. And what I would like to say is thank you very much. Journalism school students, we appreciate you. We appreciate journalists. We hope that you do the good work that you're being trained to do. Thank you very much. And I guess I will say this meeting is adjourned. It is 6:05 p.m.
Hey.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all.